Okay, I'm really frustrated because I just did a whole video, the whole one. I was ready to wrap it up, and I hit the wrong button, so it didn't record any of it. And I'm not going to go back and do that again. I'm not doing that video again. Maybe I'll do it another time. I'll go back and do that song, but I'm too mad to do it twice in a row. So instead, I'm doing the other video that I was thinking about doing today, which is a new video from NORMA. The song's called 1994. I haven't listened to it yet, so we'll check it out together. Before we get started, a few things. I do have my coffee, as always. Like and subscribe. I always appreciate that. I am not a professional. I'm not an expert. Please don't expect me to analyze the music the way an expert would. And be prepared. This music is going to be likely very abrasive. NORMA does math metal, which is not for everybody. So don't be a dick. You may not like this song. You may not like me. Those things are all right. But I would ask that we try to keep it, professional around here. So, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. This is 1994 by NORMA.
There's no other story but this. It's always something. The hand flashing sticks into its smokes. Sleeping for a day, asleep for 5 minutes. But only for a day or two. Okay.
Should have sold my board for $20. I didn't want to break.
Why you save the streets? And now it's like angry songs make me feel worse. Happy songs make me feel like a liar. I'm a 90s kid. Yes. I'm from the sound of our walls and states second instance. From below the stairs, honoring above the brick stages, PlayStations, joking out the cold. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. I swear to God it hurts. Cause worse for worse, I got a bullet in the sack and always wanted the cover. I think I witnessed the end of the world, and I like it.
All right. Well, I don't know that that's going to make it onto my list of favorite NORMA songs. I have to listen to it a couple more times, but there's so much of that that's not song, right? There's a lot of it that's just sort of drony, feedbacky guitar, like not even strumming necessarily, just sort of feedback. But I do really like the line, angry music makes me feel worse, happy music makes me feel like a liar, because who among us has not been in that position? I was more angry when I was in high school and college. The depression now is more mellow. It's more laid back. But I didn't like listening to happy songs. I didn't want to listen to that kind of music because it didn't feel real to me, right? It didn't feel like it represented my life at all. And angry music, it did let me sort of tap in to my... You may have noticed, I'm not a hugely demonstrative person. I tend to keep things very, very even. And part of that is on purpose, and part of that is because I don't really know how not to. I'm bad at getting gifts because I don't know how to generate the right amount of excitement, right? For whatever reason, some people jump up and down and scream, I can't do that. So angry music does help me tap into, an ability to express my emotion more than just sort of keeping it at this level all the time, which has value, but isn't necessarily the most productive way to do that. So I really like that line. I think that line's really, really interesting, and speaks very, very accurately for me. As far as the song itself goes, the video is interesting. I like how they're cutting in old video footage with new video footage. I don't know how much of that is of the members of the band. I would say at least some of it is, but I don't know how much of it is. Like, I don't know if those group shots were one or two of the people in the band with some other people, or if it was all four of them, or if it's just meant to represent the four of them. I bet it says in the descriptions or something, but I didn't look at that. I really like Norma Jean. Even with this not being one of my favorite songs by them, it very much feels like Norma Jean to me. And that's impressive. They've been doing this for 2 decades, maybe a little bit over that. And I still think Oh God is probably the peak for me of Norma Jean. Oh God and Redeemer, those 2 albums back to back. But they continue to make great stuff. They continue to make very heavy, abrasive, aggressive, interesting music. And there's a shelf life for most bands. For most bands, it's like 3 years, right? You make an EP, maybe you make an album, and then you run out of money. But for a band to be able to do it for 20 years, there are bands like the Rolling Stones and Chicago. There are bands that tour for like 50 years, right? They just keep going. They just stay on the road. Most bands don't do that. Most bands retire at some point. And I think we're starting to look at the point for Norma Jean where these guys are like going to be in their 40s and 50s. And they might call it, right? It might be time to move on to the next chapter of life. And so I want to appreciate, the music that they have made and the music that they continue to make, because every album, I mean, this is true with every band, right? Like, literally it's true with every band, but sometimes it feels more pressing, right? Every album could be the last. Every bit of music that you get could be the last bit of music that you get. And if you really love a band, you should try to embrace what they're giving you, because eventually there won't be any more new stuff. I don't always like new stuff. I don't always like bands' new stuff. I don't like necessarily when bands change their sound, but I still try to get into it because, I want to appreciate the artists, right, while they're still creating. Now, that may sound a little bit sappy and overwrought for a math metal band, but it's, I got a comment from Sadface on one of my videos. One of my favorite artists right now for like the last 3 or 4 years. Just really, really beautiful, sort of down-tempo electronic music. And, I'm thinking about artists like that. I'm thinking about small artists who don't have a huge following, don't necessarily have a lot of traction. They're making music because they love to make music. And that's great, but you can't necessarily do that forever, right? You can't just... you got to pay the bills. And sometimes music has to move to the back. So I just wanted to say that. I think it's important to appreciate the artists that we've got that you love, right? The artists that mean a lot to you. Appreciate them while they're continuing to make music, because eventually they're going to stop and you're going to not have new music from that artist anymore. And you're going to have to move on, right? You're going to have to listen to old stuff, obviously, but you might have to find someone new to fill that void. And that's a good thing. It's good to find new artists and find new bands. But it is also, it's just a little sad when somebody decides, you know what? We spent 25 years on the road. I just can't do it anymore. So, that's how I felt with My Chem, right when My Chemical Romance broke up. And we've still only got one song from them. Still waiting on more. All right, that'll do it. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good day. Stay safe out there. Drink lots of water. And be nice to each other.